let's make this audio reactive visualizer right now. If you get stuck or if you have issues, don't forget you can download the project file for this visualizer. Okay, the first thing we need to do is get an MP3 file. So I just went to joystock.com and then click on the hip hop category. And then I just used this coffee break song, just press download to download that MP3 file. And then just drag and drop that MP3 file into TouchDesigner. Now we're going to add a new operator from the chops category. We're going to add this audio filter chop, so add that after your audio file. Connect those two. And now in the parameters for your audio filter, change that from logarithmic to frequency, and then change your filter cutoff to about 500. Now let's add another new operator from the chops category. And this time let's add envelope and add that after your audio filter. Connect those two. And in the parameters for this envelope operator, just change the envelope width to 1.18 or something like that. Now let's add another new operator after envelope, and still from the chops category, just click on resample and place that after envelope, connect those two. And now we're basically getting a low frequency signal from our audio file. Now let's add another new operator under the chops category. This time let's add math after resample, connect these two. And in the parameters for math under combine channels, just change that from off to add. Now let's add another operator still from the chops category. Let's click on lag and place that after math, connect that to math. And in the parameters for lag, let's just change the overshoot from 0 to 0.2. And now that low frequency signal we're getting has some lag or some fall off. So it's not just an on or off signal. It's got a smooth kind of feel to it. Last but not least, let's add one more operator from the chops category. And this time let's add null. So click on null, drop that after lag, connect lag to null. And now this is the value that we are going to use to make our particles audio reactive. So we're basically done with the audio reactive part of this project. We got that out of the way first. And now we're going to make a geometry and then create particles based on that geometry. It's easier than it sounds. So let's zoom out. Now let's go above the audio part of our project. Let's go ahead and add a new operator somewhere around here. Go to the SOP category and add a sphere. So just click on sphere and drop that here. Now make sure the palette of TouchDesigner is open on the left-hand side of your screen. Make sure you are in the tools category and then click on Particles GPU, which is right here. So just drag and drop Particles GPU into your project and then place that after your sphere and connect sphere to Particles GPU. And you can see that Particles GPU is creating particles that are being emitted from our sphere geometry shape. Now let's go get an image file that will change the texture of these particles from this orange and red leaf color to a different kind of leaf, like a green leaf color. So let's do that right now. Okay, in Google Images, I just searched for watercolor tropical monstera leaf PNG. And then in the search results, this result for onlygfx.com, go ahead and click on this image. And then right-click that image and click on Save Image As. Save that to your computer as something you will recognize. Now go ahead and drag and drop that into TouchDesigner. Place that above your Particles GPU. Now click on Particles GPU to select that. And in the parameters for Particles GPU, you want to click on the Render tab. And in the Render tab, change the texture drop-down menu from leaf to custom, and then drag and drop your leaf image file onto the particle texture map field right here. So just drag and drop your image file onto the particle texture map parameter of Particles GPU. And now let's see what that looks like by adding a new operator that will show us our design in the back of TouchDesigner. So let's go ahead and add a new operator here under the tops category. Let's add null. Place that somewhere after your Particles GPU. Connect Particles GPU to null. And then press that display button in the corner of the null operator. So just go ahead and press this little blue circle to display that in the background of TouchDesigner. All right, so let's turn that display button off because it's using quite a bit of my CPU. And in the Particles GPU operator, let's click on that and change the number of particles in the Particles tab. Let's click on the Particles tab, change the number of particles from 4,000 to about 400. That'll make it easier to work on this project. And in the Particles GPU operator, we just want to change these parameters here. Let's go ahead and do this right now. Let's actually change the particles to about 600. So our particles are at 600. Let's change our life to about 35. And I believe that's the number of seconds that a particle stays alive so that we'll have fewer particles vanishing on us. Then let's change our life variance to about 14. Let's change our particle size min to about 0.001. Let's change our particle size max to about 0.49. Let's change our mass to about 4.3. And let's change our drag to about 0.5. Now let's go to this Forces tab and change some parameters in here. Let's change our external magnitude to 2 from 0.3. Let's change our external variance to about 0.1. Then let's change our wind to 1, 10, and 1. Now let's change our wind magnitude to about 1.6. And then let's change our wind variance to 0.16. And now this is pretty important. Let's change our turbulence X value to about 0.5. Let's change our turbulence Y value also to about 0.5. And let's change our turbulence Z value to about 10. Then let's change our turb period to about 2. Then let's change our turb C to about 6. We're going to use our audio reactive part of our project to change the turbulence magnitude dynamically in just a minute here. So we're going to do that in just a second. But first, we're going to change a couple more things. Now let's change our turbulence speed, X value to about 1.4, then the Y value to about 0.1, and then let's change our input magnitude to about 0.07. Now in the render tab, let's change our fade in to about 0.5, so it'll take about a half a second for a particle to fade in. And then let's change our compositing to discard alpha. Let's change that alpha threshold to about 0.45. And that should be about it for all of those pesky parameters on the particles GPU operator. And now when we look at the output of our particles GPU operator, you can see that this is how the particles are behaving now. Now let's go to our sphere operator, to the parameters for that, and change the number of rows to 50 and change the number of columns to 50 as well. Now let's scoot that sphere over to the left a little bit to give us room to add a new operator. Right-click on that line connecting from sphere to particles GPU, and then just click on Insert Operator. And then from the SOP category, just click on Sort and drop that in between sphere and particles GPU. And in the parameters for that sort operator, you just want to change the point sort drop-down menu to random. And now if we look at our particles, they have a random feel to it now, so that's looking better. Now let's get our particles to react to our audio. So go ahead and click the Viewer Active button in your null operator that is connecting to your audio source. And after you press that Viewer Active button in the null operator, just go ahead and click on the Particles GPU operator to select that, and then go to the Forces tab. So click on Forces, and then click and drag so that our null operator is visible once again. And so now that our Particles GPU operator is still selected and the Viewer Active button is turned on for our null operator, let's just drag and drop null onto turbulence magnitude. So just click on null, drag that, drop that onto turbulence magnitude, and then drop and click on Export Chop. And now when we go to look at our particles, we should see that it's reacting to the audio. And by the way, let's make it so we can hear our audio file. So go ahead and add a new operator, and in the chops category, just click on audio device out and drop that somewhere near our MP3 file. And then drag a new line from your MP3 file to the input of audio device out, just like this. And now we can hear our audio file through our speakers, and you can press the bypass button on that audio file to mute that. So here's what it looks like now. So here we have our particles, and we can see that it is reacting to the audio. Let's just make some more tweaks now and finish this visualizer. Okay, now let's add some noise in between sort and particles GPU. So we're just going to make some room in between sort and particles GPU. Click on that line in between sort and particles GPU. Right-click that line and click Insert Operator. Then just click on Noise. Drop that in between sort and particles GPU. Let's just change this period to 2. Let's change our amplitude to 4, and let's change our offset to about 0.5. And then let's click on the Transform tab, and in the Translate Z value, we just want to make sure that says abs time.seconds. And now here's what we have when we play the timeline. So that noise operator just gave our particles a more kind of fluid, organic surface from which to emit particles. Okay, now let's get the leaves to have a psychedelic kind of looking color. So let's go to the top of our project above our leaf. Let's add a new operator. And in the tops category, just go ahead and click on noise and drop that above our leaf. In the parameters for your noise operator, just turn off monochrome. Let's set our harmonic spread to about 0.7. Let's change our exponent to about 0.8. Now just go to the Transform tab. And in the translate parameter for the y value, let's change that to abstime.seconds divided by 10. Now let's add a new operator after noise. So from the tops category, just click on null, place null after noise, connect those two operators. And now go ahead and move null to be in line with the other null that we placed after our particles GPU operator, so we can try to keep our project kind of organized so that both of these null operators are in line with each other. So just scoot this new null operator to be in line with the other null operator. And then it's clear for me that these are our two output operators, as you might say. And now I know that we can just place another new operator in here to composite these operators. And that's what we're going to do. Let's add a new operator here to combine these two operators. So I'm going to add a new operator, and under the tops category, I'm just going to click on composite and place that somewhere after our null operators. And then go ahead and connect both of these null operators to the comp operator, just like this right here. And now you can see we're getting some kind of compositing here, so that's pretty cool. Let's turn off the display switch for null 2, and let's turn on the display switch for comp 1. And now we have our psychedelic looking leaves in the background of TouchDesigner here. So here is our full screen view of the visualization. Let's press the space bar to advance the timeline, or press the play button here. Let's go ahead and do that now and see what this looks like. That's all there is to this visualizer. So now if you wanted to add a black background color to the visualizer, then you could just right click on the output of your comp operator, and in the tops category, click on transform, drop that after comp 1. And in the parameters for your transform operator, change the fourth value of the background color parameter to 1, and then just turn on comp over background color. Now we have our black background. Let's turn off the display switch for comp 1 and turn on the display switch for transform, and voila. So that's it, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, then smash that like button and subscribe.